Welcome to Ask the GES. Following that announcement by the president, JHS2, SHS2 students go back to school next month. But the rest of our children in primary, those down there, will be going back in January 2021. That's similar as Kenya also has it. But there are some concerns, there are some worries, people have raised issues. So today we have the Ghana Education Service in the studio, and we will want you to put your questions across to Mr. Anthony Boateng, my guest. He's a Deputy Director General in charge of Management Services with the Ghana Education Service. We'll go on Facebook as well. So if you want to post a comment, visit our page, the Joy News page on Facebook, and add your question or your comments, and he will clarify it on the show. I want to say good morning to you. Thank you always for making time to answer our questions.
Thank you for having me here.
I remember the president saying that this was a Ghana Education Service, as in a recommendation by the Ghana Education Service. So can you explain what went into this whole discussion and why some of our children are going back to school next month?
Very well, thank you, and good morning to your cherished listeners and viewers. I'm sure we all recall the issue of COVID-19 and how it has affected our academic program. And therefore, as part of efforts of government to ease the restrictions imposed as a result of the outbreak of the COVID-19, government decided that schools should reopen. But from the word go, the fundamental consideration had been how to ensure that these children or schools reopen in safety and in comfort for everybody. The children, the staff, and even parents at home. And therefore, all the issues around the discussions have been, how do you ensure that you gradually return academic life to normal, whilst at the same time ensuring that the children are safe and secure, as well as the staff. And then also to make sure that parents are comfortable in releasing their children to go to the school. So these have been the considerations that have gone into every decision that have been made in relation to whether or not schools should reopen and who should not go to school.
So JHS 1 and SHS 1 students, what happens to them?
Unfortunately, they will have to stay at home until January next year. What it's going to mean is what it means is that the second semester of SHS 1 and the third term of JHS 1 will have to be looked at again. What will happen is that SHS 1, the second semester of SHS 1 will be deferred until January. Then the third term of JHS 1 will also be deferred to January.
Why couldn't they do online, as we've seen some other schools do, just to complete the session?
Thank you very much. It is, and it will have been a very excellent option under our circumstances. But you know, we live in a country where we have challenges, especially even with internet and with access to some of these online programs. Several of them can have it, but not everybody can have it. And you will agree with me that when it comes to those levels, the spread of schools is throughout the country, in every corner, in every hamlet, and therefore it might not be very equitable for every child of that level to access those facilities. There are some people who do not even have access to even television or even online portal and services. And therefore, it will not be fair to say that every child should have access to use those mediums. And that is the issue.
So from kindergarten through to JHS 1 and SHS 1, they're all staying till 2021. Does it mean the calendar itself, the academic calendar, has been scrapped? Have we changed it? Is this a special situation? Are we going to return to the September academic calendar?
For now, what I will say is that let's focus on January. Let's focus on how do we deal with the circumstances we find ourselves. As we move on, if it becomes appropriate to revert to September sometime in the future, we will look at it.
So as it is, we've changed?
As it is, yes, we have changed from January now.
So from January, where would the children be? Will they be continuing from where they ended? Or
right.
what? I mean, are we
right.
starting a fresh calendar?
Right. What will happen is that, if you remember, we have recently introduced what we call the standard-based curriculum. And as we have always insisted, the education delivery under that curriculum is about building on blocks, building blocks. There should be one phase, then a second phase, then a third phase, and the rest. So what is going to happen is that in January, when they go back to school, they will have to deal with what they have left out. Even though they might be in their new class, they will have to, that is why the engagement is continuing. We will have to ensure that every aspect of the curriculum which has not been covered is covered.
Where did we leave them? Where did we leave them?
The junior high schools had 12 weeks to complete the academic year.
Okay.
So the deficit, as we are confronted now, is 12 weeks for the junior high schools, and then 16 weeks for the second semester of the first years of the senior high schools. And so the junior high school goes with up to, from KG1 up to junior high school 1.
Do I get the sense that we're promoting all of them to the next class?
That is how the picture looks like. That's how the picture looks like. You see, what we should bear in mind and what we are concerned about is that if these students do not move, there is a bigger issue out there. Every year, about 600,000 children of age 4 move into KG1. If we don't move, those 600,000 children cannot go to school. And that is, to us, that is the issue. We should also bear in mind that there is some international standard that we need to meet. At age 4, the child should be in KG1. If we don't move, we miss that age. Because age will not be waiting for those children. They will have moved to 5. And therefore, the idea is that once we've gotten the final years to successfully complete their programs, they will move on. Once the final years exit, then everybody can move. Then once everybody moves, then those in the, we are expecting KG1, they can then also enter the school system. What is important is for us to continue to engage all the stakeholders to make sure that we don't lose out on the curriculum as the president directed.
Who is in charge of the private schools? There are schools that are online. Some of them have even started another academic calendar. Are they controlled by the Ghana Education Service? Do you control the entire education structure?
Now, let me say that until the establishment of the National Inspectorate Board, the Ghana Education Service had additional responsibility of supervising and managing the private schools. But with the establishment of the National Inspectorate Board, that responsibility has shifted to the National Inspectorate Board. So the Ghana Education Service is now, let's say, a competitor to the private schools. Because Ghana Education Service is providing education in the public sector, while the private schools do the same work in the private sector.
They don't take any directions from you? Because I know at least of a school that was waiting to hear the announcement, and then they would plan, even though they're a private school.
The announcement comes from the president, not from Ghana Education Service. So the announcement is from the president. And when the president announces, then our responsibility is to ensure how we can effectively and efficiently implement those announcements. So
do you, by saying that, do you expect that the private schools, okay, so I guess once it's the president announcing that schools will reopen in 2021, even if you're a private school, you have to go according to that directive?
Yes, because you see, the president is not announcing in a vacuum. We have a national situation on our hands.
But isn't that driven by the situation in our public schools, which is not exactly the same story with the private schools? We have classes, smaller class sizes. You can have 19, 20 in some private schools. That situation is entirely different with the public schools.
You see, that's why I'm saying that the details and the negatives can be looked at and can be worked out. But the general perspective is that the president's priority, as he indicated, is to ensure the safety and protection of every Ghanaian child, irrespective of whether you are in private school or you are in public school. So what is important is probably for the stakeholders to continue to engage and see what are the issues that need to be addressed.
Well, he's here for all of us, so I want to encourage parents to join this conversation. We've got questions bothering you with this latest announcement and arrangement. Kindly give us a call on 0302-211-69-102, 0302-211-69-102. We'll also take some comments on Facebook, so you can give us a call now and ask all the questions that you want to ask. I want to draw your attention to the call by the private school associations. There are two groups that are disappointed with this latest arrangement and announcement. There was a certain committee that was set up. Were they included?
Yes, they were. The National Association of Private Schools, the Ghana National Association of Private Schools, NAPS, is fully represented on that committee. What
was their contribution? I mean, what were they? Is the committee's work complete?
The committee's work is not complete. The committee's work was to advise on how, like I said, for example, if you are shifting the academic year to January, or you are shifting the academic year to January, what should go in? How do we manage it to ensure that the children don't lose out? Those are the things that the committee is looking at, and they are fully represented there.
Let's take some phone calls. Timothy is in Cape Coast. Good morning, Timothy. Hello, Timothy. Let me go to Majid. If Timothy cannot hear me, Majid is in Tamale. Good morning, Majid.
Good morning, Mamavi.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining us. What's your comment, your question?
Please, Mamavi, I have some concerns about the reopening of the schools.
Let's hear it.
Yes. It's like private schools are totally ignored, because when you look at the whole structure, unlike the last time when government came on and announced it to the general public that private schools in nature will be considered in a NPSSI. And up to now, almost all the private schools that have actually applied, none of the schools. Hello?
None of them have done it.
Hello, Majid.
Hello?
Did I lose Majid?
Hello, Mamavi. I'm still on the line.
Okay, Majid, wrap it up for me.
So looking at the issue, almost all those of us who have applied for the NLBSSI, none of us have the support. And for now, we are concerned about our teachers. Our teachers are suffering. We are suffering. We are suffering. Even currently, schools with final year, private schools with final year, maybe junior high schools with a final year. Look, when the One Hospital initiative was also implemented, in Tamale here, we have 32 private schools with junior high schools. And out of these 32 private schools that we have in Tamale here, only 5 of them are saving the One Hospital for the final year students. We've been complaining, we've been running up and down. We haven't got any solution to that. So with this nature, we are appealing to the president, we are appealing to the government. They should do something about it.
Okay.
Because the private school, that is in fact, we are with the kind of pains we are going through. We express it by our facial, unless you are in the heart. So please, Mama V, with your due respect, you know you, the multimedia journalist, you are too closer. So you help us to put this thing through. Thank you very much.
Let's try and get a response for you, but let's see if I still have Timothy. Is Timothy on the line?
Yes.
Okay.
Mama,
Timothy, good morning to you. Let's hear you.
All right. Mama, good morning to you. And I also greet your guest in the studio. I don't know whether I'm getting the sense that they are going to add a year to the SHS or something, because he said they are moving. If they are moving, it's suggestible to me that they may be adding a year or something to the span of their school.
When you say are they adding a year, are they staying longer than usual?
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, when are the universities reopening? I want to find out.
The universities?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Timothy. Let's hear from Raymond. Raymond is in Bongo. Hello, Raymond.
Hello.
Yes, Raymond. Thanks for your call. Let's hear you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please, when the president... hello?
Raymond, you're on air. We can hear you.
Okay. Please, when the president gave the address, he didn't say something about the tertiary students. So I want to know something about that.
Tertiary students.
Apart from that too.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from that too, some parents didn't understand the explanation that the man is giving. It's like they are not talking the president about this. So how are they going to explain to parents so that they didn't make the government unpopular? Because parents are complaining that, oh, the government don't want their children to go to school. So I want the man there to, how education, what are the education that they are going to give to parents so that they'll know
why the children are not going back to school.
Yes,
Okay, all right.
Yes.
All right, I appreciate your comments and your questioning. Thank you very much. If you also got a question, kindly give us a call. Sir?
Right. Let me say that the first questionnaire issue about support for private schools, I'm sure that I'm not competent enough to comment on what type of support private schools require to be able to run. So I will leave that.
But you appreciate their plights, right?
I do. I really do appreciate their
because unlike the public schools where the teachers are being paid.
Right. In fact, let me be honest with you. At some of the discussions at the committee you referred to level, this issue of private schools and their teachers came up for discussion. Yes. So we do appreciate those concerns, and we are equally as worried because they are all Ghanaians and they all need to survive. So we are very much concerned about that. On the issue of the allegation that we are adding one more year, I can say for now, no. We are not thinking of adding another year. What we are thinking of now is how do we complete the academic year, which have been adversely affected by COVID-19. Now, probably let me explain something. Our recommendation to the president on the SHS2, SHS1, fundamentally, we will have wished that the schools did not go back until January, fundamentally.
All the schools, including?
Everybody.
Okay.
But we felt that, then we looked at the impact assessment and realized that those in GHS2 will be moving to their final year next time. Those in SHS2 will be moving to their final year next time. Now, the impact on them will be severer. So we should find a way for them to complete their academic year. And that is why it was agreed that they could do the third term, as it were, even though we cannot even have the full complement of the period. But they could do the third term so that we could reduce the amount of adverse impact they will have when they move into their final year. Now, let me explain why KG, especially KG1 to, let's say, P3, cannot go to school. Their curriculum, as under this standard-based curriculum, is to be taught primarily through play. In fact, their sitting arrangement, their interaction in the classroom, whatever they do is revolving around play and interaction.
And that's contact. And
under COVID-19, the primary role that everybody should be is expected to play now is to keep social distancing. That is why we are not even allowing several activities like sporting, like culture. So it was going to be very difficult to teach these children minus play. It cannot happen unless we decide to revert. And again, at that age, KG1, at age 4, how do you expect them to wear masks? How do you expect them to keep social distance? We're looking at a situation where, at that level, somebody will even pull somebody's mask and use it for other purposes. And so you can imagine. So we felt that it was not advisable.
But if you go beyond grade 3 or class 3?
Yeah, but you see, if you listen to the president, the decision was that we need to keep social distancing. So the schools need to spread out. And don't forget that at the basic school level, sometimes the population could be that large. The population is spread out. And you know, in some areas, the type of infrastructure that we have, how do you spread out? How do you keep the protocols? So we found that it will be more challenging in dealing with that category. You see, we are fortunate as a country, and we appear to be underrating the situation we find ourselves, because probably by grace of God, the way the virus has behaved in our country. In other areas where the COVID is very active and live, we must be very careful. Now, the very people who are craving for the children to go back to school, if there is one case of COVID outbreak in the KG class, it will be the same people who will shout loudest. So we need to be careful.
Is there a date in January for the reopening?
For the moment, as I sit here, I will not be able to give you a date, 10th or 9th or 11th or 12th. No, I will not. But we are working towards that, and very, very soon we will give an indication of which date we are looking at in January.
Okay. We're going to go to Facebook pretty shortly, because we have some comments on Facebook as well. If you've got a question, kindly give us a call and ask the GES. Let's go to the phone lines now. Daniel is joining us from Latabiokoshi. Hello, Daniel. Good morning. Good morning, Daniel.
Yeah, hello, good morning.
Yes, sir. Thanks for joining us. Go ahead with your question.
Yes.
But Daniel, can you kindly turn down the volume on your television set so we don't get the feedback?
Yeah, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Let's go.
Good. I want to find out from
my guests.
All right. Okay. All right. Good. I think it's better now.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, hello.
Daniel, please go ahead.
All right. Okay. Good morning to you. Good morning to your guest, and then good morning to your viewers. I want to find out from your guest concerning the private schools. We now have schools that have come out with online learning. As you are talking to you now, they have completed their second term. They are starting their third term probably next week. And for my school, they are charging. They want money. And so if we are not supposed to go to January, does it mean all that our children are doing for now is not important and will not be counted? And so what is the way forward? Some of them are still insisting that we should pay this amount of money, and some of them are huge. So what do we do? What's the way forward? Okay. Would they communicate to them that should they also hold on? Because as I'm speaking to you now, our awards, they are done with second term, they are done with third term, and so we are now moving to a new academic year.
Yeah.
According to the plan. And so,
let me ask you though, Daniel, are you comfortable with the online session? Are you comfortable with the classes as it is for your children?
We are not too comfortable, because you will leave the gadgets at home. The children will not be able to concentrate well. They will not even understand well. And so there are still challenges, but we still believe we have to move on.
Okay.
So this also come with extra cost. You have to get data for Zoom and all that.
I'll get my guests to answer the issues that you raised earlier. I appreciate you joining us. Thank you, Daniel. Let's go to Lawson. Lawson is in Takrady. Good morning, Lawson.
Good morning, Mama V.
Yes, sir. Let's hear your thoughts.
Okay, good morning to your viewers as well. My main concern here is about teaching the second term. I don't know if it's the third term. The honorable minister there was talking about that to January. Now, because he wants us to finish the third term, I mean the syllabus. If you check the curriculum that the primary are using, the standard base, you realize that some topics in class 4, if you go to class 5, you meet the same things there. But there's a little knowledge that has been added. Why can't we I suggest that we omit the third term and then continue with the term that is supposed to start on January, the actual term. And then what we do is that we can just briefly find a way to treat the previous things that we were supposed to learn in the subject. So, for instance, mathematics, if it is counting, maybe class. So we teach something small in class 4, something that is related to that, we the students will understand. Then we build upon it with the class 5 knowledge.
Okay.
And then we are gone.
All right.
And
You
so
sound
instead of trying to postpone the whole term there, I see it to be something that will actually worry us.
okay. Mr. Lawson, you're a teacher in a public school?
Yes, I'm a teacher in private school, Barbara International School, Apramdo.
Okay, so this is just your suggestion. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Erasmus is in Wa. Erasmus?
Yes.
Yes, sir. You're there. Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Madam V.
Good morning.
Yeah, I just want to say that concerning this whole project, I think that as a country, if GES are the ones that are advising government, I think that they need to sit up. Because the whole holistic approach of locking down all schools, when you know that there are most of the schools in the villages, most of the schools that are already government schools that are already behind. When you talk of Kumasi, Takrade, Accra, and others, those in the remote areas are not even aware of anything. They are not even aware of anything.
When you say they are not aware of anything, what exactly do you mean?
They are not aware of any COVID-19. And yet, the children are forced. Look, Mama V, there are a lot of things happening in the villages that GES is not in touch with. A lot of the girls are getting married, getting pregnant.
Okay, let's stay on course here, Rastos. What's your suggestion? What do you think should have been done?
Is that there should have been a case by case. GES should have engaged the district directors in their respective place to be able to know where, how to implement this thing.
Okay.
Now, most of the teachers, when they are resisting, most of the teachers, and Mama V, I'm telling you, not on DSA, but most of the teachers are resisting because they are not engaged in businesses. So when they are talking about this thing, because they are getting their pay comfortably, when they are talking about reopening the school, they are resisting.
Okay. Erasmus, I appreciate. I really get the point that you're making, and my guest has taken notes. So he's going to address that. Fatau is in Mbole. That's the last call for this round, and then we'll get the issues addressed. Fatau?
Good morning.
Good morning, Fatau. Let's hear you.
Good morning to your panel. Please, my concern is to the private teachers. I believe life first before education. And if the president is telling lies to sit at the various houses to go to school, I believe he is also taking good care of ourselves. And not in concern of going to school to get education and later Mama, you exactly in this perspective. How can they still go to school with the condition and you will return to the hospital? Oh, I'm very disappointed when I heard it from the private teachers. Very, very disappointed. Oh.
Okay, Fatau, well, thank you very much for sharing. I know that you've taken notes of some of the issues.
Right. The first issue is about fees being charged by private schools who are running online programs.
That's really none of your business.
I will encourage the person to take it up with the National Inspectorate Board.
Okay.
I will encourage the person to do that.
But I've got a question on that. Their academic calendar has nothing to do with the GES.
We run a uniform academic calendar in Ghana. And everybody must conform, especially those who run the curriculum that is being run in Ghana.
Okay. So there are two categories. There are those who are strictly doing the international, the Cambridge.
Yes.
And there are those who are doing parts of GES.
Yes.
Those schools are supposed to be aligned with your structure.
Yes.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, we all write the same exit examination. And therefore, they must all follow the same
and if they don't?
If you don't, you see, what will happen is at the end of the day, you will have to wait to write the same exam. So what will have happened? Because if you finish and the public system is not ready to write the exam, you will have to wait. So that is the scenario that we will get. But let me quickly address the issue of whether we should not have stripped off the third term and continue. But the questioner himself also ended up by saying that there are some of the topics that you need to teach some other foundation before you can build upon. That is the idea. So the principle is that when in January we even reopen, we are not moving straight to the new class program. You need to deal with what was left out at the current term, and then we build on. What we are planning, that's why I said the engagement will continue. What we are planning is how do we ensure that we are able to deal with what is left out and then build upon it with the new academic year.
Okay.
There will be several implications. There will be several implications in starting the academic year in January. And all these things need to be looked at and worked on. Okay. And we will be engaging the various stakeholders to address some of those concerns.
Okay, there was also an issue with the wholesale approach.
Yes. You see, again, I'll go back to my earlier comment I made that probably is because we have been fortunate enough by grace of God that the virus has not behaved like in some other countries. So some people even think that there's nothing called COVID-19. But some people think that, and some people even think that...
Well, to be fair, there are some areas that are not recording cases.
Right, but as I speak to you now, there are even some regions where there are no active cases. Are we saying that those areas, the children should go back to school?
That's the suggestion.
Right, that's a suggestion. But
because their parents going to the farm,
yes,
and leaving their children, their parents going to the markets with nobody to take care of their children.
But in Accra, people go to work and leave their children. In Takrady, people go to work and leave their children at home. So it's the same scenario. But you see, the president's fundamental responsibility is to ensure that everybody is safe. And the president cannot sit in Accra and say, upper west, there's no active case. So your environment is free from any restrictions. We live in one country, we move around, we interact. So we need to ensure that uniform policies and programs apply. If you even, like I said earlier, if even you say that students in one category should go to school while the others stay at home, at the end of the day, are they going to write the same exit? Are they going to write the same exit exam? If they are going to write the same exit exam, who would they write yes differently from the rest? Because we are in a unitary state which run a uniform program, we need to run some of these things on a uniform basis, so that there are no distortions and there are no distractions. Okay,
so from the GES perspective, what are we doing to engage those children who are home?
Right. If you remember, when the president directed that schools should close, he also directed that we should come up with programs and activities that will ensure that academic work was not disrupted for these children. And therefore, we have been working on that. I can tell you that we have worked with various media institutions, and we are also working online. There are also other forms of e-learning mechanism that we are using. For the senior high schools, for example, we have what we call the iBox, which is an online program developed by Sendros. And so we will engage, and we expect that the senior high school 1, for example, will continue to, those who will have access will continue to engage on the iBox system and continue to have access to academic work. We have developed some learning programs with GBC. We have a channel specifically designated for learning.
So are we getting, is there feedback? Do you know how well these initiatives that you've just talked about,
yes, we
going down on the ground?
We have been doing some survey. The report is not yet out.
Okay.
But we are carrying out some survey. But the fundamental issue we have come up with is access to every part of the country. That is one of the major challenges that has come up, that we are trying to see what we did that we can do. So we are working together. Of course, with support from some developed partners to even look at specific districts and specific locations on what is it that we can do for them, especially when they have little or no access to the general internet system.
Okay. All right. There was also a question about the universities.
Right.
And the tertiary institutions.
I deal with pre-tertiary.
So this is not your area at all?
No, that's not my area.
All right, great. Let's wrap up with the comments on Facebook, because we also have some comments on Facebook. If we're ready, Let's bring those comments to you. Okay, here we go. Oops. Can we just open the page again so we can read those comments before we go? But if you still have questions, I guess you can give us a quick call now before we wrap up on this. Pepsin Stevens says, good morning. When will tertiary schools reopen? Well, that's not the area of my guest, so we can talk about that. Joseph Safo says, I want to find out if schools are allowed to organize extra classes now for students that are in the house. Noted. This one says, when are the level 100 university students going back to school? Okay, my producer call. It looks like you have to put a call through so we can clear this issue up. Let's get an official to help us with the tertiary, because that's an issue that's coming up. But somebody's asking if they can hold extra classes.
For the children who are at home.
Yeah.
How do they do that? How do they do that? Because if you want to organize, if it's online, it's a different subject altogether. But if you want physical face-to-face contact, how
the schools are shut.
Yes.
So you can't have access to any school at all.
So how do you do that? Right. But what we intend to do, and I'm saying that as part of the details, working on the details, we are even looking at the feasibility. I'm not saying we have, but we are looking at the feasibility of discussing with the staff whether we cannot even add some additional hour to the normal school time, so that they could, those who are going back to school can even capture. Because as I told you, the senior high schools require 16 weeks and the junior high school require 12 weeks. The period available is not up to that number of weeks. So what is it that we can do to make sure that we can make up for the difference? These are all the details that we need to engage the various stakeholders and deal with. Okay,
let's get some more questions on Facebook. Benjamin says, kindly ask him when the original transfer release letters will be ready for us. That's a question coming from Benjamin in Y in the Upper West region. All SHS and GHS students should return to school. Well, that isn't exactly the call, Kojo. Michael says, what about the undergrads? Are we part of the January? Well, that's not clear exactly. This one says, what about the tertiary? We're trying to get, a response on that. This one says, okay. Latif is on the phone. Hello, Latif. Good morning, Latif.
Frank. It is Frank.
Okay, Frank in Adan. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Mamavi.
Yes, Frank, let's hear you.
Yeah, please, what I want to ask is that, I want to ask, good morning.
Frank, go ahead with your question.
Okay, I want to ask, it's like now that the schools has been closed down, the private schools,
Okay, Frank, I guess you have to call again. And when you do, turn down the volume on your television sets so we avoid the delays and we can have a straight conversation. We're wrapping up, though, so you have to call right about now. Any final comments that you want to make before we wrap up this conversation,
right.
sir?
My final call is that we are not in normal times. Some of the things that we are doing might not be normal, but we have a new normal. And all what we need to do is to adjust and make some sacrifices to make sure that these things work. The paramount interest or the paramount consideration is the safety and protection of everybody in the school environment. And that is why some of these decisions are being made. Ordinarily, everybody will have been happier to have everybody back to school. In fact, some people have been started complaining that the children are putting on too much weight, and we must soon have issue with weight in the system. Some parents are complaining children are eating too much. Some are complaining children are creating so much distraction at home. So there are several concerns, and we will have wished that everybody had gone back to school. But the environment in which we find ourselves is such that we need to tread cautiously, and I believe that that's exactly what we are doing. Our assurance to the whole country is that we will try as much as possible to ensure that the academic work is not, the academic work of the children are not unduly adversely affected. Okay.
So what we do know is that children are definitely going back in January, except that we don't know the dates yet.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Mr. Anthony Boateng, I thank you very much for making yourself available and taking all the questions and all the comments. But suggestions are still welcome, right? Because
yes.
you're still trying to figure out how things would exactly be done.
We continue to welcome ideas and suggestions.
All right, great. My guest is a Deputy Director General, the Ghana Education Service. He's in charge of management services. Thank you all for being a part of our conversation. You're watching the AM show. We've got plenty more to come. Please stay with us. We've got an eye also at the Kotoka International Airport. Remember, today is the day that the airport is open to travelers. So we're going to be monitoring that situation. We've got a live report coming from the airport.